What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to talk about leasing. Leasing cars, and my experience leasing my Porsche GT3 RS that I just leased this month, and the company I use, which is Amazon Leasing. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so let's talk about leasing, Amazon Leasing. We're going to talk about some basics about leasing, some more advanced stuff about leasing. We're mostly going to be talking about Amazon Leasing, but a lot of these concepts and the phrases and things like that kind of apply to all leasing in general. And this should be good for people that are trying to learn more about leasing, and also for people that maybe some people that might have a bad feelings towards leasing. I might change some of those bad feelings, or I might just reinforce them. So, and that's fine. No problem with not liking leasing. A lot of people say, "Oh, I would never lease a car. I only own my stuff," and that's totally up to you. Sorry, I'm gonna move my microphone so you can hear me better. So here's AmazonLeasing.com. This is the leasing company I just used to lease my Porsche GT3 RS, and they're a great company in my opinion. They're not paying me to make this video. They're not endorsing anything. They're not doing anything special for me. I simply want to help other people that could be in the similar situation. So Amazon Leasing is backed by Murphy Bank, a large bank that's been around for a long time, and they've been in Amazon Leasing has been in business for 28 years. They're strongest at doing leases in California, but they do a lot of leases in other states too. So if you live in another state, don't feel like you shouldn't talk to them. You should still give it a shot. Compare them, see how it's going. How it compares to your the dealership, basically. The manufacturer, most manufacturers all have their own leasing division, right? So you might want to compare the lease rates that you're getting from Amazon Leasing with the dealership's rates, the manufacturer's rates. They usually only lease cars that are over $100,000. So a lot of people may be clicking away right away as soon as I said that, because like, oh well, I'm not buying $100,000 car. If you're buying a car that's not $100,000, there's no reason why you can't ask them if they're willing to give it a shot. I would just say, hey, I want to lease this car. It's X amount of money. I know it's not on your list. And in the future, I'm a big car guy or gal, and I plan on buying some really expensive cars in the future. And I'd love to start today with what I can afford today, and maybe later we'll start getting into the cars that you normally do. They might say they can't do it. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll want to jump in. You're asking them to make money, so don't feel like you're putting them out. Okay. So there are two different. There's a lot of different jargon and things that have to do with leasing, but there's two different types of leasing, or main types of leasing. So there's open-ended lease and close-ended lease. Amazon Leasing only does close-ended leases, okay? And that means that you can buy the car out at the end of the lease. So you can buy it, take it, keep it, refinance it, pay it off, whatever, but it could be your car. Or you can turn it back in to Amazon Leasing. You can turn it over to them and say, here's the car back, I don't want it. Maybe the car, to buy the car, it's 100, let's say it was $100,000 car, and they said that in the 3 years, let's say you leased it for 3 years, they think the car will be worth 50 grand, and at the end of the 3 years you see that on the market it's only worth 40, or it got in an accident and you think that the value is really bad because you had to repair a bunch of front bumper damage or something like that, and you're like, I don't want anything to do with this thing anymore. You just turn it in, no problem. They take the car back. Open-ended leases is not what Amazon does. And open-ended leases they mean that you have to buy the car at the end. So they call that a balloon payment, right? The money that you owe at the end of the term. So again, using a 3-year lease as the example here, at the end of the 3 years, the amount of money that is due is now owed. So you have to either come up with that money out of your bank or whatever. You can go finance the car with a financial institution, or you could sell the car and then take that money that you got from selling the car and pay it off. It's nice to have both options, of the option of turning it in and just walking away, making it very simple and easy on you, It's nice to have that option and the option to keep the car or sell the car yourself, which is what Amazon does. Again, that's called a close-ended lease. Okay, so you probably don't want an open-ended lease, and you probably do want a close-ended lease, which is what Amazon's doing. They do have some competitors, I believe, that only do the open-ended. So keep that in mind if you're shopping. Here are two false misconceptions that I've learned from people just in the past month with people trying to give me advice about leasing. One false thing I was told was that don't go with X type of lease, open or closed. I don't even remember which one they said it was. Don't go with that type, because if you go with that type of lease, the residual or the payoff amount can change at the end of the lease. Meaning, if they when you signed your when you set up the lease agreement and the contract and all that stuff with Amazon Leasing or whatever financial services, let's say Ford Financial Services, whoever the company was, when you set that up, the residual price, which is how much you need to pay at the end, people have said that amount can fluctuate based on the market. That's not true. That price, that when you sign the contract, that is what the car is worth at the end of your term. So if it's a 3-year lease, 3 years is up, that is how much it is. It doesn't change based on the market. Okay, I heard two different people say that don't do that because you might get screwed because the market could change on your car. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, guys. The other thing that I heard that was false is if you total your car, the down payment that you put down is lost. Now, maybe there's a company out there that does something like that, or insurance company that works that way. I'm not. I heard. I think 3 different people told me this rumor. I would call it a rumor. I confirmed with both Amazon Leasing and my insurance company that is not true. I use a company called Wawanisa. Wawanisa told me that if I were to total my car, that they would pay me out on the value of the car, which is what would normally happen, just like if you finance the car. It has nothing to do with a lease. There's nothing to do with your down payment. They pay you if you bought your car for $100,000 and the car is now worth 150, it appreciated. They pay you 150. That's how it works. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the insurance price doesn't change for leasing versus financing. Okay, now one thing that does matter though is that, and now sorry, with my company, Wawanisa, there was no difference if I owned the car, if I financed it, or if I leased it. It was the same monthly payment for my insurance, and my insurance, just so you know, was actually not that bad. It was like $200 a month, which is still a lot of money for car insurance, but for how much the car costs, it's very reasonable. It was pretty much about the same as my GTR that I had before that, which is a third of the price. So, but that doesn't change. But what does matter is the coverage. So, Amazon Leasing requires you to have a certain minimum amount of coverage. That amount of coverage was already fine for what I was already doing with Wawanisa. So I actually had I think Wawanisa said I had the maximum coverage you could get with them, which is what you would expect. That amount is a good amount. It's not like I'm over covered or anything. I think my financial advisor told me, like, go with this amount, and it was just so happened to coincidentally be the same amount as the max for Wawanisa. So, it wasn't. It's not a crazy amount that they're demanding you to have from Amazon Leasing. Let's just put it that way. So then the other thing was, for business owners, if you for whatever reason you're deciding to purchase your vehicle as a lease and you're doing it through your business, you can depreciate all of the payments in the first year. So I don't know who is able to buy exotic cars or whatever it is for their business, but there are a lot of people that do it. I wouldn't personally recommend doing it myself, for me, because it doesn't relate to the kind of business that I own. I have a company truck that I lease. Sorry, I don't lease. I finance it. But that truck is a truck. It's a work truck. I haul stuff around with it. Great. You need to have a truck for work. But I don't know. There's got to be some businesses out there. Maybe they're renting the cars out. I don't know, but there's a bunch of people out there that are buying cars, or sorry, leasing cars, and they're putting it under their business. And I don't know if they write them off or not. That's a whole other story. But I'm not telling you. Let's just be clear. I'm not your financial advisor. I am not telling you to go lease a car under your company name with Amazon Leasing and then write it off. That is not something I'm telling you to do, because that's not something I personally would do or feel comfortable with. But you can talk to your CPA and your financial advisor and your tax guy and all that stuff, and they might say, "Yeah, go ahead, no big deal." That's up to them. That's their professionals, right? So, but what you can do, if those people do tell you to do that and put it under your company name, you can pay all of the payments if you have that much money just sitting in your bank account. You can pay all those payments immediately, so you're not making any payments, and you're just paying the whole amount of the lease today, and then you can depreciate all of those payments. So that is this is something that Amazon told me about. A lot of people do that with them, I guess. So, and that's their business. You know, if you can take those risks and do those things however you want, right? Okay, let's keep going here. So, Amazon Leasing is not affiliated with Amazon.com, so don't get that confused. They've been in business for 28 years. It's just a coincidence that the name is similar. Um, Josh is the guy that I was working with. I'm still in contact with. He's a really good guy. He's actually still texting me all the time, just because he's into cars. He's just, hey, how's your GT3 RS? Where he wants to go drive around. He has a Turbo S actually too. He's really into cars, as I just said. So, if you want to get a hold of him, you can just call. You can click this contact button on the website here, and the phone numbers are right here. So if for some reason you're not looking at my screen and you're just listening to me talk and you've got a pen and paper, their main line is 818-888-2535. And if you want to email Josh, his email is josh@amazonleasing.com. Very simple. He's a really good guy, really easy to work with, fun to talk to. If you're into cars, he likes to talk about cars too. Um, I end up at some points talking to the owner, just coincidentally. Actually, the owner picked up the phone when I called the first time. Really nice guy, and because I finished the deal, I actually even ended up talking to the owner's wife, because she handles a lot of the paperwork and the CFO type stuff, the finances and stuff on the back end once you start to do the deal. So she's a really awesome lady as well. You know, it's kind of nice having the whole, like, you get kind of a family feel with them, and they're just easy to talk to and do business with, and no pressure and stuff. So, um, their rates were significantly better than Porsche Financial Services. I don't know how to tell you significantly other than showing you the numbers, okay? So, or just telling you. The same car with Porsche Financial Services and then with Amazon, the same monthly payment. With Porsche Financial Services, I would have to put $100,000 down, whereas Amazon would have been $50,000 down. So the Porsche Financial Services residual and money factor, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, so you understand what those phrases mean. But those two things together meant that you would be paying $50,000 more over a 3-year lease than you would with Amazon Leasing. That's how much cheaper Amazon Leasing is. Okay, so I want to also explain that just because Amazon Leasing is a cheaper payment and less money down doesn't necessarily always mean it's a better deal. You have to look at the whole picture. And a lot of times it is going to be a better deal, okay? It is going to all work out, so Amazon Leasing is the better option. But you have to remember that just because your payment's higher doesn't necessarily mean you're paying more for the car. Because if you look at the residual, which is how much the company thinks your car is going to be worth at the end of the term, your residual is going to be a lot, a lot. Well, it depends on the percentage is lower, I guess, with Porsche Financial Services, and the total amount of residual is a lot lower with Porsche Financial Services, meaning that Amazon thinks your car is going to be worth a lot more money at the end of the 3 years, which is going to be way more accurate. Porsche thinks that your GT3 RS is going to be worth half of its value in 3 years. And if you look at the 2016 GT3 RS, that's now 3 years old, they're selling for almost the same price as they were selling for when they were new. They're still going for $180,000. Why does Porsche think they're going to lose half their value in 3 years when they have all this data in front of them? Well, the answer is they don't want to lease you a car. They want you to finance it. So I don't know why. But they also, maybe they think you're going to beat the heck out of the car at the track and they don't want to deal with that either. So that could be a good reason. But Amazon Leasing does want to lease you the car. And their stuff is based on Manheim. So when they calculate how much money that they think your car is going to be worth at the end of your lease, they use Manheim auctions to look at how much those cars are selling for at auction, and they use that as their estimation of how much your car is going to be worth instead of just making up a number like Porsche is doing. So let's pull up their leasing calculator. This is what you're going to want to do to see if they're better than, if you're buying a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Porsche or a Rolls Royce, whatever the heck. I mean, look at all these different brands that are on here. Let's just look at them. Acura, that would be an NSX. Aston Martin, Audi is probably an R8, or some high-end can't talk right now. High-end sedans like the 8 series and stuff like that. Bentley, everything. Bugatti, Chevrolet is probably like ZR1 type stuff. Dodge, probably Dodge Viper. Ferrari, pretty much everything. Ford, which would be like the GT. Hummer, I'm kind of surprised that's on there. It's probably from a long time ago. Jaguar, some of the really high-end sports cars. Lamborghini, Land Rover, Lexus, which would be like a LFA probably. They might have some really high-end sedans that go over 100 grand. I'm not sure about that though. Lotus, they don't make too many cars these days that go over 100. McLaren, yeah, everything. Mercedes, yeah, they make a lot of stuff over that. Nissan would be the GTR. Pagani, everything is like $10 million with Pagani. Porsche, yeah, there's a lot of cars, and Rolls Royce. Okay, so I'm just quickly going over that, but let's look at the calculator so you know how it works. Start at the very top. So first thing, lease criteria. You've got to drop down 2 different options. So 400K, that's not like a catchphrase or something. That means dollars. So is the price of your car that you're looking at leasing, is it over $400,000 or under $400,000? If it's over $400,000, you can only do a commercial lease. You can't do it for your personal stuff. You have to do it through your business, which means you have to own a business. You make that much money that you can buy a car that's that expensive and you don't own your own business, just go get an LLC. If this is going to save you a lot of money, get an LLC from LegalZoom for like, what is it, $400 or whatever it is, and wait for that to get, it might take a couple weeks, and then come back and do this, okay? But you have to have a minimum of 740 credit score, and you're, oh, you know what, that might not work. Sorry, what I just said, the LegalZoom thing, probably scratch that. It says they want you to be in business for 2 years. So anyway, there's probably not a lot of people that are going to watch this video that are making that much money that they want to spend over $400,000. And if you are wanting to buy a car that's over that much, that over $400,000, and you can't afford it, you probably can talk to Amazon and say, hey, can you ask them, can you make an exception? And they might ask you to put more money down or something. Okay, and then the other thing is under $400,000 car, and that can be consumer or commercial. And then you don't have to have as high of a credit score, but you need to give them a bunch of stuff, this is what I did. So we're gonna do the under $400,000. We're gonna select, let's do the car that I bought for fun. So we're gonna do a 911. We're gonna select GT3 RS, and the year 2019. It's new. We're gonna say 2,000 miles a year. If you're buying a Porsche GT3 RS and you want to use Amazon Leasing, please, please, please do not put a bunch of miles per year on this thing, because you probably, even if you are going to drive 5,000 miles a year, you're not going to turn the car back in. Okay? Are you trying to keep your payments down? Keep money in your pocket? Then put the mileage lower. It doesn't matter. Put 2,000 miles a year, okay? That's what I did. You can put 2,000 miles a year, even if you're driving 4,000 miles a year or 5,000 miles a year, because you're not going to turn the car back in at the end of the lease. And I'll tell you why in a minute. And don't come back to me later if the economy collapses and the values of cars change. But my tax rate is 7.75, and cap cost. Okay, so cap cost is the price of the car. So let's just say that you're buying, say your GT3 RS is $230,000, okay, which is pretty common. And you have to put the markup too, guys. So if you bought one that was with a BISAC package, and so it was a $245,000 option car, very option out, and then you're paying 50 grand over markup because you're crazy, shop around enough. Then you're gonna be like, what is that, 295 grand for a GT3 RS, and your lease is not gonna look very good, my friend. So is the registration current? No, because your car is brand new. It's never been registered. You need to put no, and that matters because like yes, then it's going to change your registration fee stuff differently because you owe less money at the front. Ask me how I know that. Wrong. The first time I did it wrong. Cap cost reduction. This is how much money you're putting down. Okay, so if you're going to lease a car that's $230,000 with the intention of purchasing it at the end of the lease, like me, or selling it, you probably are going to want to put some money down. So let's just say that you're going to put down $50,000. Okay. And then your lease, yeah, you can do 60 months, which is 5 years for anyone that doesn't want to do the quick math. But I think a lot of people are going to do like a 3 year. So I'm going to put 3 years. And that's 36 months, 3 years, right? So this is everything. Hit the button. So there's some fees that you have to pay Amazon Leasing, which is fine because they're doing work for you, right? Residual price. So this is how much they think your car is going to be worth at the end of your 3-year lease, $167,000. Compare that to Porsche. They think your car is going to be worth $100,000, 120, something like that. That is a significant difference of how much they think your car is going to be worth. And this is based off of auctions, like I said. So at auction, the guy Josh from Amazon told me that the most recent auctions they looked at, they were showing that the lowest RS that was a 2019 had sold for I think $230,000. A couple other ones had gone for $250,000. So 167 is 3 years later is still pretty conservative. And this is also, if you, as I already mentioned, if you look at the 3-year-old GT3 RS that are selling right now, they're all going for basically 180 up. So, and that car was selling new for cheaper than this one, right? So you do the math and inflation and things getting better, blah blah blah. And 167 is maybe a little bit conservative. I would think that it would sell for about 200 grand, which is why I'm telling you to sell your car at the end. You know, if you put even if you put 10,000 miles on it over 3 years, if you underestimate your miles per year, you're probably still going to be selling your car for 200 grand, and so you're going to be pocketing the 30 grand back to your pocket. So here's your cap cost reduction. You put down 50 grand, right? You paid your tax. You paid tax on this $50,000. You are giving them a $3,000 deposit, which comes back to you, by the way. Okay, so you're paying this $3,000 now. You get the money back at the end when you finish your lease. So keep that in mind. It's not in the trash money. And then you have your first payment. Then you have your tax, title, and registration. And then this is the total amount of money that you need to write a check for when you go to the dealership, right? So, and then here's your monthly payment, $1,400, which is, for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. For someone that's actually considering buying a car that's this expensive, it is a very, very, very cheap price. And I'll show you why. Let's do a car payment calculator. We'll use a good one. Okay, so we're gonna do the same car. Down payment we said was $50,000, right? We're not doing a trade-in. Sales tax was 7.75. We're gonna include the sales tax. Interest rate's gonna be around 5%. Porsche Financial Services is actually, I think, higher than that. And then 6 years is pretty common for a loan term. So you're talking about a payment that's over twice as much for twice as long. You're financing the car. Huge difference. Huge. So for someone like me that owns a business that wants to buy a really cool car like this, there's a lot of reasons why people would say don't do this, what I'm saying, this leasing. Don't lease the car. There would be some people that still say that because you're gonna end up spending more total dollars, okay? I think I did the math and it worked out to like $12,000 total over the 3 years that you're paying more than you would if you financed the car. But the $12,000 that I keep, that $12,000 is more important, or less important, I should say, than the money that I would keep in my hand to use for my business. So like if I was going to do this, going back to this finance thing, I felt like I would need to do like $100,000 down so that my payment would be more 230,000, 23, or it's about 2,400, right? So that's still $2,400 payment is still a whole lot of money, and putting $100,000 down is a ton of money, and I would have to dig into my business bank account to do that, and that means I would have less money in my business bank account, which means I would have less money to purchase equipment that I would sell to make profit at my business, and my margins are good enough that it would make more sense to keep the money in my hand, because I could make more money with my money than the $12,000 that I'm going to end up paying more, the extra $12,000 I'm going to pay over time, right? So that might make sense to some people, and some people might be like, oh, just get a low, low APR loan and all this other stuff. And I like doing it this way better. I feel a lot more comfortable. It just works out. And when I'm driving this car, I don't feel like it's a leased car. Like, oh, it's not mine. It's my car. I'm gonna buy it at the end. I'm gonna sell it at the end, probably. Maybe for some reason I want to keep it, but I'll probably sell it and get another car. So I hope that all makes sense. Now, one thing I didn't mention that's really important also is that you're only paying taxes on your down payment and your monthly payment. You're not paying taxes on the rest of the car. So this $167,000, not paying taxes on. That's actually a big incentive, and that's why the math works out like this. You're not paying tax on that. So that is definitely something to mention. Okay, I have some notes over here. I just want to make sure I touched on them all. Talked about the mileage on this calculator. We talked about the cap cost, which is the purchase price. We talked about the cap cost reduction, sorry, which is your down payment. We talked about the length of the lease, the residual price, which is this right here. This is how much the car is worth at the end, and that's how much you need to pay Amazon Leasing if you sell the car. That's what you owe them. That's what they're saying your car should be worth 3 years. The money factor is something I did not talk about, and that is extremely important. Money factor is like the interest rate in the lease world, and it is a trick. That is what I'm telling you right now. The phrase is not called interest rate because it is a trick. It is something the car industry came up with to make money. I would say that a lot of people would be watching this video. If you've leased a car, you've probably heard the phrase before, and then of those people, probably some of them know what it is, and a lot of them don't really know what it is. Even the people that know what it is, of those people, they probably don't fully understand it. So money factor is basically just your interest rate that you're paying on your lease. So if you're financing a car, almost everyone knows this. If you're financing a car and someone tells you that your interest rate is, you've got a great credit score, so we're able to get you 10% interest rate. Great. And you're like, this isn't my middle finger, guys, but it's what it should be, right? So you're like, get the heck out of here. I'm not paying a 10% interest rate. I have good credit. I don't need to pay 10%. It's a terrible rate. Absolutely terrible. If you go, you can just go look at interest rates today or whatever. You can go Google and type in best new car interest rates. Bankrate.com. They're gonna just spit out a bunch of stuff. So 2.5, 2.3. It's in the twos for a new car. That's normal. And that's actually sounds kind of low. I think it depends on how many months and stuff. It might, if you're doing a 60 monthly or finance, it might be more like in the threes, but it doesn't matter. 10% terrible. And what you do with your money factor, if you're leasing a car, always ask how much the money factor is, and they're going to give you a number, and they're going to say like 0.0849 blah blah blah, and you take that number and you multiply it by 2,400, and that gives you an interest rate, and that's how you know if the interest rate is reasonable, the money factor is reasonable or not. If you multiply the number and get 8%, 9%, 10%, you know that they're making money, and that's called marking up the money factor. So if you're talking to Porsche, you're trying to buy a Porsche, and the dealership gives you the number, you can say to them, that sounds awfully high. Are you marking it up? And marking it up means that they're taking Porsche Financial Services number and they're adding extra on top of that to make extra money on top of you. That's like marking up the price on something. It's the same idea, but they can get away with it because there's nowhere that requires them to explain that they're marking it up. All that matters is that you sign a bunch of paperwork with 1 million words on it that you don't understand, and it has the money factor on there, and it's just a number, and you don't know what it is. You don't know if it's supposed to be better. You don't know what it doesn't say what it translates to in an interest rate. You have to know all this stuff to understand that. So I'm going to pull up my text message from the dealership. Here is the contract, and I think I have to look at a different. I think I actually specifically asked him. Yeah, I said, what is the money factor? He didn't even have to put the money factor on his proposal. Okay, so I'm gonna type this here on the calculator for you guys so you can see what it is. I'm not saying which dealership this was. This is true. He said 0.00359. This is the money factor he gave me, okay? Multiply it by 2400. 8.6%. I have a 780 credit score. Rip off artist. I said to him, that's 8.6%. That's way too high. He said my buy rate is so I'll do the next thing, 0.00320. That's the Porsche's. This is Porsche Financial Services on a GT3 RS. I don't know if that's what they do for a Carrera T or a Cayman or every Porsche car, but this is the least money factor that they're doing on a GT3 RS. You can't get any better than that with Porsche Financial Services. 7.6% interest rate. That is garbage. Absolute garbage. Porsche, you really need to step it up. So after in this text chain, same day, this guy I was talking to, when I said that's a terrible rate, he said, where is it? Right here. He said, check out Amazon Leasing. I've heard good things about them. Same day, I had my wife was buying a Volvo. She was leasing a Volvo. I was talking to the sales manager over there and just asking him if he had any good contacts with Porsche stuff, and he said, and telling him about this car and how bad the lease was, and he said, oh, check out Amazon Leasing. He was a second person. I went on the internet, I think I was on Renlist or something, telling people about how bad the money factors were and stuff. Third person in one day, hey, check out Amazon Leasing. It was like a sign. So I called Amazon Leasing and everything was so much better. So Amazon Leasing, I'm sorry, but I don't remember what the money factor was, but it was in the twos. So it would be like 0.00, let's just say 245 times 2400. So it's more like 5 or 6%, which is a lot more normal, and you're probably not going to find anything better than that. So and the residual is really good too. So yeah, it's not 2 or 3%, and it never is on a lease. Like my wife's Volvo, I think was like 5% or something like that too, 6% when you did the translation. It just doesn't, on leases you're never going to get the same interest rate as you would if you financed a car. It's always going to be higher, but it's never supposed to be, if you have good credit, it's never supposed to be 8 or 9%. That's crazy. So I think we really talked about everything, but if you're going to go buy a car and you're going to do a lease, get the lease, talk to people over the phone, on the internet, ask them for the money factor, and then ask them what the base money factor is from the bank. Just straight up call people out to their faces. Say, did you mark it up? They have to tell you. They can't lie and say, oh no, we didn't mark it up. If they marked it up, they have to tell you or they're in trouble. You can sue them if they didn't mark it up. Sorry, if they say they didn't mark it up and they did, you could sue them for lying to you. So I think I've talked for too long, and I'm pretty sure I gave you guys. All right, guys, real quick, just before this is over, I'm sorry. I know it's already a long video, and I hope that the information was great. So thank you for sticking with me. But real quickly, I'm trying really hard to get my channel monetized, and the reason for that is I spend a lot of time away from my actual job where I make real money to make these videos, and I enjoy making these videos. But if it kind of just is for nothing, I guess, I mean, it's for me, maybe you could say it's like therapeutic and stuff, but I like helping people, but it'd be great to make a little bit of money off of making the videos too, just to kind of motivate me, I guess, a little bit to make them. So the way to get your channel monetized is by having two things, and I've mentioned this in another video. You have to have 4,000 watch hours, and you have to have 1,000 subscribers. So I'm doing really well right now. My watch hours, it looks like I've got about 190,000 minutes, which is about 3,100 watch hours. So I'm almost to 4,000 watch hours. That's great. That's really good. I'll be there, no problem. It's easy. It's gonna happen. Subscribers is a whole nother problem. If you guys watch these videos and you haven't subscribed yet, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. I only have 50. I have to have 1,000. Like, I'm light years away from the subscribers. So please, 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 please subscribe. Like buttons help too. Commenting is great. I like talking to you guys, but subscribe button, please. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the content and have a great day.